Good morning, and welcome to the Drive To podcast, where we talk about what we're driving to happiness, driving to fulfillment, driving to leadership, driving to a better place at work, driving to a better place in life, just driving to, you fill in the blank, and we talk about it here on the Driving To podcast. I'm Matt Munnell, your host of the Driving To podcast, or video blog, or whatever you want to call it. I'm actually sitting in a parking lot now. Yesterday, I talked about meetings and conference calls and leadership of those meetings and conference calls. Well, it just so happens that as soon as I got done filming that, I had some more thoughts on it. So I pulled over in a parking lot, and that's what I'm doing right now. It's actually yesterday as I'm filming this, but it's going to be short and sweet. You know, I got thinking about what causes. I talked about a raucous staff meeting I had, and how I like meetings that are transparent and people are really getting after it and talking about things and solving things, and they're not afraid to speak up and not afraid to talk. And I said, well, what causes that, and what causes that not to happen in other meetings? And I got thinking, and it just comes down to trust. You know, you ask for transparency, you ask for participation, and if you don't get it, what's the root cause of that? And I think the root cause comes down to trust, that people aren't trusting the environment. They don't feel safe in that environment to be able to speak up, because once they speak up, the words are out there. What happens to those words? And then what happens in a reaction to those words? And if there's trust, then you're going to get transparency. And with that transparency, you have a good meeting and a good conference call, what have you. But if the trust isn't there, people are just going to sit down in the meeting and basically sit on their hands, sit on their voices, wait for that thing to get over, and then they move on to whatever they're doing the rest of that day. Now, I know some of you listening are probably saying, well, I'm a leader, I hold meetings, and my staff trust me, but they still don't participate in my meetings. My meetings are pretty quiet. Well, two things may be happening. One, maybe they don't really have that trust to speak out. You think they do. And a lot of us think we have a lot more trust with people than we really do, a lot better relationships with people than we really do. It's tough to know where that stands, but I say a symptom is in a meeting, if nobody's speaking up, then that trust factor, that safety factor may not be there. The other thing is the style of meeting you're presenting may not be one that fosters participation, or the preparation beforehand may not foster participation. I know there's times when I go to different meetings in my life, not just work related, and all of a sudden the agenda is placed in front of me and they want comments, and I can't comment on that because I haven't had time to look at it and study it. You know, the extroverts probably can very quickly, but others that want to think about things and marinate with the idea and the discussion topics aren't going to participate. So that might be the problem too, that we're not preparing right. But I really think trust. You know, everything that we do, every relationship we have needs trust, builds relationships, which then allows transparency to happen, allows deep, real conversations to happen, and that's what we want in our meetings. So as you're holding meetings, make sure again that you prep right and prep the attendees properly, but then throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the year, work on your relationships and work on the trust in teamwork, trust in your team, and make sure that you trust them and they trust you, and then you'll go get some raucous meetings, and that's when the fun happens, and that's when the real work and the real solutions happen as well. So just wanted to add that to yesterday's video blog about meetings and conference calls. It was on my mind as soon as I hit stop record yesterday, or this morning actually, because like I said, I'm just pulled over in a parking lot and continuing it. But as soon as I hit stop record, I said, I had some more stuff to talk about. So adding that to yesterday's podcast. And so I'm driving to meetings again and driving to leadership of those meetings today as well. And whatever you're driving to, drive safe, and we'll see you next time.